Hello and welcome to the North American Guitar Showroom in London, and today is a very special talking guitar session. The first talking guitar session that we've had for a while. We're now back from the summer and we are here with none other than Mr. Jason Kostal. Jason, I know, it's so good to see you. So almost a year ago to around this time was when I was out with you in...
you came out to Arizona.
Arizona, right. Yeah. So how has your year been? Other than very busy.
It's been busy. It's been, it's always busy, which is a good thing. Just building some great new guitars, kind of establishing some new procedures in the shop, which really add to, not necessarily the quality, but just the process for me and having kind of direct ownership of it, which is really nice. And I've really enjoyed this last year of kind of reconnecting with the guitar building process and being a part of it again. I think as a creative person, you're drawn to the creativity side of it, but as a business person, you have to get these guitars made and out the door and everything else. And I think as I've grown in terms of the number of guitars that I make each year and the waiting queue, sometimes you get away from that because you're focused so much on like, oh, this person's waited. I need to get the guitar into their hands, and there ends up with a little bit of a feeling of being disconnected to the process because you're just focused on getting it done. And I kind of took a step back a little bit at the beginning of the year and reevaluated a lot of how I was doing things and what I was doing, and I think that's allowed me to kind of reinvigorate my own excitement, in terms of building the guitars. And so it's been a good year in that regard. It's been exciting for me to really feel connected to the process and the instruments, and I'm really happy with the guitars that have been coming out of the shop. I mean, it's been exciting for me. I think one of the things that I dealt with for a long time is I was building a lot of instruments for repeat clients, which is an amazing thing. In some ways, that's still
something I'm so proud of.
Well, yeah, I mean, to think that you went through this process once and that person enjoyed it so much they did it again, and some of my clients do it again and again and again and again. But it means that when you deliver those guitars, they already have an expectation of what's going to happen, and some of that magic maybe isn't there. And this year I've had a lot of really new clients where it's their first guitar from me. And that's been really fun to hear their response when they get it. I had a couple clients this year that had never even played one of my guitars, and they've had them on order for years, and they get it. And their response is like, I just didn't know this was possible, and that's where you realize like, this is why I do what I do, but it's hard to remember that sometimes when you're kind of down in the weeds and you're trying to do everything.
Yeah, of course. And what was really interesting, just jumping back a little bit, was the one of the videos that we did, that was actually one of the key points that was picked, that a lot of people would call up, and other luthiers that I would speak to, was about the processes and how you really worked your timeline. And I think it is, you start with great intention, and obviously as more orders come in, you get busier, and trying to that like in the artistry coming into it, though, you can almost it just shifts slightly. So coming back to that, realigning yourself again, keeping that quality just 100% perfect every single time, which is what you do. It's
tough, right? I mean, it's hard as the consumer. If I call somebody and say, look, I had anticipated getting your guitar started or completed on this date, and I'm not going to make that happen because of these things that I'm doing to make my world better. It's a difficult conversation. I'm very fortunate that the clients I deal with are some of the most amazing people I've ever met, and they are usually very supportive, not only supportive, but encouraging in that, because they recognize that I do have a reputation of a lot of like 20-hour work days, 7 days a week. And when I say I'm trying to do something to create more time or a better product, I think they know that I'm doing that with a lot of integrity and sincerity. And so they're willing to give me that space to do it. But it's still difficult. And I think sometimes I want to get everything done, exactly at the time that I promised. But I think if you're good at what you do, and if you care about what you do, you're always evaluating how you do it and the process itself. And it's not a good thing to become stagnant or really kind of complacent.
Yeah, you want to be excited.
Right.
Every build,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be super excited about what the guitar's
Yeah,
going to be.
and so I think for me to take that step back and say, okay, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing and how I'm doing is a positive thing, because it allows me to refresh a little bit and reset. But there's things in the shop, every luthier deals with this, where you're doing something in a way that you know is not the best way you could be doing it, but you don't want to take the time and shut down your operation to figure out how to do it better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always one of my, I hate to say frustrations, but it was something I dealt with a lot at Irvin's, which was he had a process that he had established years and years ago, and that was how we were supposed to do it. And as we would do that and find out that it was taking up a lot of time, or the end result was not exactly what we wanted, we didn't feel like we had the time to really adjust. Mm-hmm. And I try to be very cognizant of everything that I do and open to changing things. I don't ever feel like the way that I do something today is the best way in the entire world. I'm always learning from other luthiers. Like I'll visit their shops, or I'll see their websites or some YouTube post, and,
wow.
and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, look at how he's doing that.
So
and
you're still drawing inspiration?
every day.
That's
every
amazing.
day.
I think that it could be, being such a well-known luthier and such an iconic brand now, that I think that many luthiers you could be very much, this is my way and this is how I do it, but it's good that you're drawing so much inspiration from
it's everybody has a way of doing something, and that's true with life in general. But I think in the luthiery community, it's very incredible because we all learn from the same resources, either the schools or the books or the DVDs or whatever. But then your shop dictates how you do things. Mm-hmm. The tools that you have, the space that you have. And so everybody has to refine the process to their own, environment, mm-hmm. so to speak. And some of the new luthiers coming up have the benefit of learning from 50 years of experience from other people, but all of a sudden, like their environment, maybe they're in the city and their shop is only 500 square feet or something, and they have to figure out how to make that work. So all of a sudden you see a video of them doing something that you've been doing for years, and you're like, the way they just displayed that's ingenious. Okay. And so then, I go home at night and I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. But that's what's exciting to me. If my thought of what my future entailed was nothing more than doing the same thing over and over and over again, I would be looking for another career path, because that's what bores me. And so part of what excites me is this idea of looking at other luthiers and how they're doing things and realizing there's always a different way, maybe a better way. I always hesitate to use identifiers like better or whatever, because it's just different. Everybody is doing really good work, but everybody has a different way that they achieve those results. And
always evolving.
Yeah, and sometimes you just find a way that's faster or it's more exciting for you to do. Sometimes just doing the same task over and over again gets old.
Yeah.
So.
And this year for us again, incredibly proud to represent you. But you're one of the original 3 luthiers. Yeah. The DNA.
Last man standing.
Last man standing. You are. We was joking, we said this, but you really are in the DNA of the North American guitar. We're so appreciative of that, and become such great friends over the past few years, and just had a great steak. Yeah. So that was good.
I always come here for a great steak. So.
But this year we've seen a real surge in the MDW model. We've all had 4 orders come through this year, including the one that I'm particularly excited about is one in the tree. Yeah. So that's going to be pretty special guitar.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, what's exciting for me right now is you are the single greatest representation I have in the world right now. I mean, in terms of the volume that you're doing. I think last year we did like 16 guitars through you or something. It was a lot. Yeah. And this year there's about 10 on order, and we're already filling orders for next year. But yeah, it's exciting to see that model doing well. I love it. I actually, when I head home, I'm going to be putting the strings on a new one and sending to a client in the United States, and I'm just excited to get that one up and running. So it really is a great guitar.
What do you think it is about that guitar that really resonates with you? Because we were talking about this over lunch, that there's been a real movement from the modified Dreadnought to your orders from that to the MDW.
I think the size has a lot to do with it. The location of the waist, the shape of the guitar means that you're getting a lot of the benefit of the MD. You're getting that bass response, you're getting kind of the boominess and the articulation, but you're getting it in a more compact size. And I think the OM is, really the MDW and the OM are my two biggest sellers, and in my opinion, they're the two guitars that I would want with me. Everything else tends to be kind of a variation on a theme, but those two are really kind of the benchmark by which I evaluate my own guitars. And I think the OM, traditionally, because it's called an OM, is thought of as a 14 fret model, and then a triple O would be the 12 fret model, so to speak. But the MDW, because it comes as a 12 fret, I think people are starting to really enjoy kind of the looking back into the 12 fret models and where the bridge is located and how it sounds. I will be the first one to tell you, and I've said this before in talking about the MDW and even the doubleo, I think I owned one 12 fret guitar in my entire life before I started building those. So every guitar I've ever owned was a 14 fret model. I got used to the upper access and just kind of how the guitar felt and was laid out. And when I started building these 12 fret models, the sound is incredible. It's warm, it's intimate. And as I've gotten older, I'm not playing in the upper register as much as I used to. And I don't know why that is. It's just that's not really where I find myself playing. So if I'm playing primarily in first and second position, then having a guitar that does that really well is an exciting thing. And I think this MDW kind of fits the 12 fret genre, and then people go to the OM if they want the 14 fret.
And we've got, we've got a OMC in rosewood that's going to be coming soon, which is very exciting, which is on the site as an incoming guitar. I'm a huge, we know this, we've spoken about this at length, I'm a huge fan of your double-Os. And what was really awesome was when coming out to see you in Arizona, and you were showing me the Paduke double-O, which I was like, we've got to get one of those. And what's great is, and again, something I feel truly privileged to be able to do, is to come to a workshop like yours, look around, see your processes. It's very awe-inspiring. Looking at your wood inventory, pulling out a set of wood, and then 6 months later,
seeing it become something.
It coming here and playing it, and that is, we all feel, all of us here in North America feel very, very spoiled with that, and the fact that it didn't even touch the size. It actually came in, got it out, I played it a little bit, put it back in the box, and it was out the door. That's inspired us to take a step further, because we talked at length about CoOp. And how hard it is to get really great CoOp. We've had that conversation.
It's funny. So there's only one place in the entire world that I know of to get master grade CoOp, and they're actually here in the UK now.
Wow,
I've been buying from them exclusively. Elaine and her husband basically harvest the wood in Hawaii, and then they ship it over here and they mill it here, and then they ship it back to the United States. And it's been hilarious, because until recently she didn't understand that the way it was being shipped back to me, we always had to pay duties and tariffs to bring it back into the United States, which we should not have to. So it was an issue. But anyway, finding master grade CoOp, and by that I just mean highly curled, really nicely figured, tight grain, is impossible. And it's because of how the tree grows. It's a very fast growing tree, and when CoOp became popular in the 1920s, with ukuleles and stuff, up until really the 80s, the trees we were harvesting were 200, 250 years old. But now a CoOp tree grows to maturity in 20 years. So they replant them, they grow tall enough and we cut them down, but part of what gives it that curl is the density as it grows really tall and just settles, and we're not getting that anymore. So you have this beautiful, colorful koa, but nothing with the kind of figure that you would see, 50 years ago. And so somebody like me who, it's like every guitar that I build, I want it to be the finest woods on the planet. I'm finding it harder and harder and harder to find those woods. So with Elaine and the koa that I get from her, it's been amazing. I mean, I'm back to, because we've talked about it. Koa is one of my favorite woods, and it. I feel like koa, walnut, maple, these are woods that are so underappreciated in the guitar community, and not because they're bad woods. It's because what we know of them is from factory-made guitars. Typically if you played a koa guitar, it was probably a Martin or maybe a Taylor. If you played a maple guitar, it was probably a Guild, stuff like that. And so we have these ideas of how these guitars sound, and we forget that the way those guitars are built is just, we build it the same way, whether it's a rosewood guitar, maple guitar, koa guitar, with no consideration really being given to the backs and sides. But a luthier that knows what they're doing and knows how to manipulate the woods can build a guitar to really pull out all of the best, attributes of that wood. And in the hands of somebody that knows what they're doing, koa, maple, walnut, all these underappreciated woods can be amazing. And there's some of my favorite woods.
We had an OM from Michael Bashkin in maple. And you would close your eyes, and there was no way on earth that you would know it was
exactly.
So we are. It wouldn't be an interview if we didn't have some kind of exclusive to announce. But we can now. Exactly. Someone's going to jump up here. No, that we are.
Sometimes I don't even know what these exclusives are.
Well, no, you do. That we are going to be bringing in a doubleo in master grade colour.
Yep.
Which I cannot wait.
I'm really excited about that. And you bring up the doubleo, and I mentioned earlier it's kind of it's a niche guitar for me. It's a very special instrument. But what's difficult for me is it's a small-bodied guitar with a large-bodied voice. And when I first started saying that, people were like, well, why would you want that? I want a small-bodied guitar with a small-bodied voice. But the reality is that a lot of people, as they get older, end up with shoulder problems and things like that. So they're more drawn to a parlor or a doubleo. But if you're used to playing an OM or a dreadnought, suddenly those guitars don't have that resonance. They don't. They sound like they're just lacking. And so when I started making the doubleo, I built that guitar from the ground up, and the whole idea was to create this full-bodied voice, and I've achieved that. And I don't build a lot of them, so sometimes I kind of forget that. But like when the Paduk one was finished and I sat and played it, I just, it's like, God, this is magical. And it's always funny because it's a short scale, 12 fret and small body. So as I am building it, I feel like I'm building a ukulele or something. I always just feel off as I'm creating this thing. But when it's all done and it comes together, that's another one where if you closed your eyes, you would swear you're listening to an OM of some kind.
100%.
And yet it's this small package that does really well for a lot of people. And it really is a beautiful guitar. So to be able to make one in koa, again, one of my favorite woods, and have it be of the quality of koa that I've been after, is just exciting. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we can't wait to get that in here. Hopefully we'll have it for more than a couple of hours. We obviously, just going back to some of the videos that we did a lot of filming. Yeah. When I came down to see you, we did like 5-6 films, and going through all the woods.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean that's part of the magic of buying from you, right? In the sense that you made the effort to come out, pick out the woods. Like this is not. I mean, granted, there's something to be said for like, oh, this is what Jason selected for the guitar, and I get that a lot of people really appreciate that.
Of course.
But this is a team effort in what we do, and I'm creating these guitars for you. You have to then go and find homes for them. Mm-hmm. So you're able to talk about these woods because you came out and firsthand with me, got to play with them and tap them and listen to the things that I'm listening to. I mean, that's an education and a part of this process that's very important to what I do, that you took part in.
But that's so important to,
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah, and so, you know, as a reseller, to be able to say, like, you know, not only did we pick the woods, but, you know, we're not picking it based on the visual, you know, like acuity. We're buying it or ordering it because of the sound it creates, and then the visual aspect of it is secondary. Like, it has to look beautiful, but it has to sound good first. And you got to see firsthand, you know, all of these sets. So you know that the guitars coming in, you know, we've both worked together to kind of say this is the right one, you know, and I think that's pretty exciting. There's nobody else that does that. So.
Well, very, very exciting, and you're just really giving me another excuse to fly out to some hot weather.
Well, there's always that too. You
can
come in the winter season. It's much more enjoyable. So.
That's the crim of our summer. And again, talking about something that we spec'd last year that has sold is that very, very beautiful recreation of the Mim guitar.
The Mim guitar, yeah.
Which a dear client of ours is extremely excited about getting this.
That's a tough one for me to let go because I think I've told
you
the story. I think I told you the story that I didn't want to sell the first one.
I know.
And I sold it, and then I got it back because I felt so stupid. It was just, and I don't know why. That guitar to me represents a turning point in my career because it was the first time that I really did some ornate stuff on the back. I love the black and white theme, but maple is unforgiving. If you make a mistake, you can't like fill it in with wood dust. Like everybody goes, wow, that's a really big mistake that was made there. So everything has to be executed very well. And that's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure. And so when I built that guitar, I was so proud of it. And I told myself, like, this is my personal guitar. And then somebody offered to buy it. I let it go. But then I had the opportunity to buy it back. And so I was like, I have to have this guitar. And now it's in the MIM. And the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix is the largest musical instrument museum in the world. And that guitar is on permanent display, in its own display, and will be there long after I'm gone. So in that regard, that guitar is me. It's telling my story long after I'm gone. So now I have this opportunity to rebuild it, and all I'm thinking about is like, I shouldn't sell this one. I should just keep it and tell Ben I can't let go of it. But it's exciting for me because when I built that first guitar, all of that was new to me. Now I have more experience, and so I'm going back, and I'm not going to build it exactly. It's gonna be very close, but probably some of the inlays will be a little different, and I'm going to use some different color schemes. But it's exciting now to readdress those techniques, but with more experience now. Because now I'm not as like, oh my God, this could be the end of the world, you know. Now I'm just like, okay, this is what has to be done, and we go do it, you know. So.
Amazing. Oh gosh, that's so cool. Just we were talking about you really do have a love for obviously your traditional well-known tone words, Brazilian rosewood, you know, etc., etc. But you really are partial to walnut and maple, and obviously we talked about CoOp. And the only reason why I bring that is because we've had several of your walnut instruments that have come through the showroom, and I agree with you. I think walnut is very similar to maple. It has a lot of similar attributes. And we actually at the moment are very lucky in the fact that we've got, which is very, very rare, and it's kind of a bit eerie, the fact that they're sequentially so close.
Right.
So we've got number 55,
which is
50. And 50.
Yep.
Which is, and it's great because I just wanted to get your views on the different tone words and what they do. So you've got a modified dreadnought here.
Yep.
Both are German sprues. One has got walnut on it, which is number 55. And then you've got, so the same, this would have been what, a few months between each other?
Literally. Yep.
And then you've got another MD with Madagascar rosewood. Both absolutely phenomenal instruments, but yet a very, very different voice.
Yeah, very much so.
So what do you, what are your
you know, it's funny because the walnut one, it was a very special build for me. It was built for a client in France who I consider to be a wonderful person, you know, a great friend, and he actually came out to the shop His father had been a furniture maker or cabinet maker of some kind and worked with Walnut. And at the time, I had a stack of Walnut this high, and I could not convince anybody in the world to get a Walnut guitar. And he came out and right away was like, as a child, one of my fondest memories was the smell of walnut being sanded and worked on in my father's shop.
Oh, wow,
And
awesome.
so he's like, my guitar has to be walnut. I was like, yes. And so we went through set after set, and we found this set and, built this beautiful guitar. And it's just one of these woods that in the United States, the issue we run into is because it's readily available and plentiful, it's not really expensive, so we don't view it as exotic, and so people don't want it. And I shouldn't say they don't want it, they don't value it as much as these more expensive woods. Yeah. Price is about scarcity. It has nothing to do with tonality. And so, we built this guitar, and it just sounds amazing in every way. I haven't heard it played in a long time, and then when you had Blair perform on this recently, it brought tears to my eyes.
I mean, me too.
And that's the magic of that guitar. And the the MD, obviously bigger body, so a little bit more resonant bass and full-bodied sound, but still exceptional, like in every way. And the Walnut, to me, what it does, the Walnut almost tempers the overbearing side of the MD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
If it's rosewood is like in your face, projection and everything else. And the Walnut almost added some warmth to it that to me makes it sound like an OM, but you can drive that top on the MDW or on the MDC and get it to do what you want it to
Absolutely.
do. On 50, we have almost, like you said, almost the opposite, right?
Yeah.
But as we've talked about many, many times, my favorite combination for a guitar is Madagascar rosewood and German spruce.